last time we talked about the changes in the Seattle Seahawks organization, and at the time, a lot of coaching changes going down, correct?
Yes.
That changed as the changes have continued. Change. On Wednesday, the Seahawks traded Michael Bennett and a 7th-round pick to the Philadelphia Eagles for a 5th-round pick and wide receiver Marcus Johnson. Details on Johnson, I had no idea who he is. He's fast. He ran a 4.3 40.
He's 23. You want some stats here real quick?
23-year-old wide receiver. And Jonah, my little brother, told me yesterday that he's recently baptized. So there's your fun facts for Marcus Johnson.
Okay.
The new Seahawk wide receiver dealt in the Michael Bennett trade. What do y'all think? Michael Bennett gone, not a Seahawk anymore.
I think, it's just a case of we had to unload him because, frankly, he didn't produce last year, and I think there's a reason for that. His snaps, the year that the Seahawks won the Super Bowl, his snaps were at around 500. That was like 50% or 54% of the snaps. And then the last 2 years, I think they've both been above 700 snaps. And his production has just kind of stayed the same. So in reality, that's a dip in production. So I think he was getting old. I still think he has one or two good more years in him. But it was time to get young for the Hawks.
Seth, your thoughts on the Seattle Seahawks trading away Michael Bennett to the Philadelphia Eagles?
Well, I know he had a lot of foot troubles the last number of years now, so I'm not sure that he's really played at 100% for the last couple seasons now. So I'm all right with this trading him now, because I'm not sure his value is going to get any higher than it is now. I think if anything, it's only going to fall further.
Yeah, I would have liked to maybe see him get... They still don't have a 2nd or 3rd round pick, which I don't know now. I don't know if you want to get rid of Earl Thomas and just go completely young, like you said a couple weeks ago, Christian. Yes, they just released, or they are going to release Richard Sherman once the new NFL season starts. So, I mean, you got to... I'm still going to stick strong to this. You got to have somebody kind of teach those guys how to play in the back end.
Then what are the coaches there for? Teach. Yeah. I'm going to say the same thing I did. First of all, I'm a little surprised that no one in here is mad about the Michael Bennett trade. You're all coming in, yeah, that makes sense. We're younger now. That no one's upset that a cornerstone of the Super Bowl team is gone. No one's mad at that.
He wasn't very good anymore.
Wow. Wow. Build on that. Keep talking, Seth.
I'm a little underwhelmed with the return that we got. A 5th-round pick, but we also had to give up a 7th-round pick to get him. So that's really not much of a return. And I believe this Marcus Johnson guy had 5 total catches last year for the Eagles, if I read that right.
Yep.
So he's been a non-factor for however many years he's been in the league.
Even in college, like that Marcus Johnson kid, he's only had, in 2013, he only had 22 receptions and 11 games played. 2014, 27 catches with 13 games played, and only 12 receptions his senior year with 10 games played. So, he's never really been the guy or the go-to guy. Like, even at Texas, yes, that's a high Division I program, but I don't know, maybe
if I had to guess, I would guess that probably means they're moving on from Paul Richardson, who's a free agent right now. Probably he's going to end up taking Richardson's spot.
And who knows, maybe Pete Carroll and John Schneider, they've been famous for this with finding like Sherman, even Bobby Wagner was a lower draft pick. Guys like that, they've been known to do their homework and find those players, or like diamonds in the rough, if you will.
Give us a call, 253-535-7332. Tell us what you think about the roster changes the Seahawks have started to make. We don't know if they're all completely over yet. Again, 253-535-7332. I think that, DJ, you mentioned that Michael Bennett might have, 1 or 2 more good years left in him. If the Seahawks waited any longer, they probably couldn't have made this trade. So that's why it makes sense now.
Yeah.
They're also going to save $21 million over the next 3 years in Michael Bennett. So, there's the motivation for making the move. And, yeah, I think that it makes all the football sense in the world, but still a little surprised, no emotional tie from either of you guys about, Michael Bennett's gone. Did he wear thin on you?
I don't want to say wore thin. With the political climate that was the NFL this year, I was just kind of, eventually I was just I got over it, and it was just like, oh, okay, yeah, it's just another thing. So that wasn't a factor at all. Like Seth was mentioned, like I was a little underwhelmed by his performance this year. It wasn't the greatest. It was still, upper tier, not the greatest level of defensive ends. But I think if it was, maybe a year or two ago that they traded him, I would be a little more stunned. Right. But like you said, yeah, I'm good with the move that they made. I understand there's more moves that have to be made this offseason.
Seth, Michael Bennett wear thin on you. Are you happy to see him go? Or you there's no emotional tie. You guys all come out of the football. Oh, this is fine. This makes sense. But there's no backlash from it.
I'm a little indifferent, I guess I would say. He was a very good player the first couple years that he was in Seattle, but these last 2 years, really this last year, he just didn't seem to have any explosiveness. He was not as disruptive on run defense and didn't record nearly as many sacks either or total tackles. So the production was definitely decreasing. And like you said, Christian, if they didn't make this trade now, they were probably going to be stuck with him for the next however many years.
3 years, yeah, with the $21 million.
Yeah, 3 years, $21 million would have been tough to overcome. Yeah, no. Yeah. Michael Bennett is a Philadelphia Eagle. Seahawks get pretty much just a 5th-round draft pick in return. So,
and who knows? Maybe Marcus Johnson will do something.
Who knows? You never know.
Yeah.
Another move the Seahawks made that came down today, Friday, March 9th. The Seahawks announced that they will release cornerback Richard Sherman. Talk about this one. Sherman gone, saving about $11 million, I believe, if I've heard that right.
Yep.
From cap space. So, another money-motivated move. Sherman coming back. It will be coming back from a torn Achilles.
Yes.
Which has to
and
hurt
he's
like
had
none other.
He's had surgery on both of them now this offseason.
Ooh. So what do you think? Richard Sherman gone. Makes sense of it. Not even a trade.
Yeah,
just done.
Let me just clear, or I don't know, make my point more clear of what I was trying to say like 2 weeks ago when I mentioned, keep some players around to kind of mentor the young guys, and I said it at the beginning of this show. In my opinion, I don't think they should move Earl Thomas now that they have released or are going to release Sherman. It does save you $11 million. It does give you a little freedom to go out and maybe make a signing here or there. You'll have Shaquille Griffin back, and I believe, bring Byron Maxwell back on a cheaper contract. And I think you could live with those guys because a free safety, in my opinion, is more important than a cornerback, because if the ball's in the air, Earl Thomas has great instincts and can break on the ball like that. And so I think it's I think it's another great move. It was bound to happen sooner or later.
Seth, what do you think? Richard Sherman cut by the Seattle Seahawks today.
As it stands now, I'm disappointed because Sherman was a flashier player but also an elite player. So I think me, like a lot of Seattle fans, had an emotional attachment to Sherman. So I hate to see him leave Seattle. But from a team perspective, I think we can survive in our secondary if they hold on to Earl Thomas. But I'll be really disappointed if they don't use the cap space that they're saving with this roster move to re-sign guys like Sheldon Richardson or Jimmy Graham.
I don't think we should bring Jimmy Graham back. I don't think he fits our system really well. I agree with Sheldon Richardson. I think we should bring him back. But Jimmy, I think we got to let Jimmy go.
Yeah, it's interesting. Definitely a lot more money. It's another situation where a player's antics may be away from the field, how he dealt with people. I mean, is it a situation? It was.
He did get into some trouble.
Talking about Richard Sherman and
yes.
his antics. Did he wear thin on either of you guys? Maybe not this last year. He was a little bit more clean, a little bit more, a little bit more of a decent guy. Except towards the end of the year, he had a tweet kind of destroying the fans that was just not fun to read and kind of mind-blowing.
I didn't see that tweet.
Dude, it was ugly.
What did it say?
Something about you should be grateful that the Seahawks have been so good for so long, and instead of criticizing what they've been up to. It's like, okay, dude,
yeah,
calm down. But is this another situation where Richard Sherman, did he wear thin on you? Are you happy? Seth has already talked about it. He's not real happy to see him leave. What about you?
I am sad to see him leave because he kind of grew up here and we saw him kind of mature into that star cornerback that he is today. It does suck. Eventually you have to let guys go, and this has been something that has made the Patriots so good, is they're willing to let their guys go when it comes time. The saying is Father Time always wins, and right now it's getting the best of Richard Sherman. He didn't wear thin on me. I loved his antics, especially all the trash talking. I like that kind of style of play, and I thought that kind of brought energy to the team, and he was kind of the heartbeat of that defense for a while. So definitely sad to see him leave. I think he did wear thin on the coaches just because they were having to deal with the media and everything. So that could be a problem or an issue that arose. But as for me, he didn't wear thin on me.
I think if he had played for any other team in the NFL, I would adamantly oppose everything that Sherman is.
Yep.
But because he's been a Seahawk for 7 years now, of course, we all have an attachment to him. He's been the best cornerback in the NFL. The most interceptions in that time span, I believe most forced fumbles. He's up there in total tackles by corners. It's hard to let a guy like that go.
Yeah, I'd agree with you. I think objectively looking at it, Seth, I thought that his personality in the beginning of his time in Seattle, Richard Sherman this being, was refreshing. It was new. It wasn't the cookie cutter.
Sure.
Same thing you get from every other player. But as time wore on, Richard Sherman, as the mouth of the Seahawk defense, talked so much that it almost became more fun to watch the Seahawks get theirs instead of live up to whatever he said. Like, they became so easily hateable because of his mouth.
Yeah, totally. And that's what made it so
around
fun for us fans, is like everybody hated us.
Right, so you're embracing that as like, this is fun. I like being a fan of this team that is like that. I was on the other end. I was like, dude, I can't stand these guys.
Really?
I was happy to see.
And I mean, you can get away with it as long as you're winning, but
Right.
this last year they had a lot of adversity. They didn't really overcome the adversity, and so there was a lot of backlash. You saw that in their locker room. They had a lot of different issues between the players and coaches.
They weren't performing up to standards. Yep, totally.
So let's go ahead and jump to a break. Let us know what you think down in the comment section on the Half Athlete Radio YouTube page. Michael Bennett and Richard Sherman, they're gone. They're not Seahawks anymore, and it's interesting time here in Seattle as we will look to the future, maybe in a couple weeks from now, and see what the Seahawks have done or what they're going to do with their decisions, because they got to come up clutch again like they did in 2012 with that draft. I mean, they really have to find the players who can turn out like Richard Sherman and Michael Bennett and other players like that did for the club.
Their average for picks has been down the last couple of years, so it's time, it's time they have another breakout season with that draft.
They need it.